Welcome back to the 17 News at Sunrise podcast, where we share your news on your schedule.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
Good morning. Right now at 5, some businesses will be allowed to reopen today across California as the governor announced new guidelines on Friday. What's included and what's not, plus what the new tier system means. Still ahead.
After a week of protests over the shooting of Jacob Blake, the president heads to Kenosha, Wisconsin today, despite requests from the governor and mayor to stay away.
And take a look at this. A building goes up in flames overnight in East Bakersfield. What we know about the blaze so far on this Monday, August 31st, 2020. Good morning. Good to have you with us. I'm Maddie Jansen along with Alex Fisher. Hard to believe we are coming to the end of August already.
I know time is flying by, but the temperature is still feeling like summer. Let's turn things over to Kevin Charette, who has a look at your forecast as we start a new work week.
Yeah, we are going to be looking at a pretty good warm-up as we progress into the work week and especially into our weekend. Yesterday wasn't a bad day, 97 degrees, and we'll be in the upper 90s again today. Let's take you outside right now and show you what we've got. 74 degrees in Bakersfield this time. No winds, visibility good at 9 miles, but I did see a little smoky haze as I was coming in. The moon kind of had that orangish glow, so that'll be kind of a concern throughout the day. A little bit hazy. 52 degrees in Tehachapi at this time. A light wind out of the southeast at 3. Visibility good at 10 miles. Starting out in those 50s this afternoon, we'll be looking at the mid-80s for our mountains. So I'll have much more in your forecast. That's coming up in a bit.
All right, thanks, Kevin. And we begin this morning with some grim new milestones as the coronavirus pandemic rages on across the globe. Worldwide cases now topping 25 million, and 6 million of those cases are here in the U.S. We turn now to 17's Taylor Shaw. He has the latest here at home. Taylor?
Well, good morning, Maddie. 15,400 new cases were reported in the United States over the weekend, bringing totals to more than 6 million. This all comes in the wake of what public health officials are calling the first confirmed case of COVID-19 reinfection in the U.S. A 25-year-old man in Nevada got sick in April, recovered, tested negative twice, and in May experienced symptoms and tested positive again. Officials say he caught 2 different varieties of the virus. Here in California, Governor Gavin Newsom is expected to make more announcements about the state's plan to combat the virus, as California is at the top of the list in confirmed cases.
COVID-19 will be with us for a long time, and we need to adapt.
Governor Newsom announced a restructuring of how businesses could operate in the midst of this pandemic Friday. We are now under a 4-tiered color-coded system, from purple representing counties with widespread COVID-19 transmission rates to red to orange for moderate to yellow for minimal. Newsom noted 38 counties in California are in the purple widespread strictest tier. That includes us here in Kern County. No matter what tier a county is in, indoor barbershops, hair salons, and indoor malls can now reopen.
This is going to require us in this new framework that's really built around being statewide, being stringent, and being slow.
State health leaders say moving from tier to tier will be tough. Counties must wait at least 21 days before moving on to the next color. Businesses given the green light to reopen can do this as of this morning. California has the largest number of cases at more than 700,000. Nearly 13,000 Californians have died since the pandemic began. Here at home, Kern Public Health announced another 144 new cases yesterday. More than 29,000 people have tested positive in Kern County since the pandemic began. At last check, 13,000 people have an active case and are isolated at home. 203 people are currently being treated in the hospital. 286 people have died since March. Governor Newsom is expected to hold a press conference at 10 a.m. this morning to provide more details about the reopening guidance.
New this morning in your 17 Crime Watch, a home invasion thwarted. Bakersfield police say a person was shot by a homeowner while trying to break into a home in southwest Bakersfield. Here's where it happened. It was around 6 p.m. at the home on Myrto Court. That's just off Ming Avenue between Ash and Newstein Roads. That's where police say they responded to a report of a burglary in progress. They say when they got there, a person was trying to break into the home. Police say the attempted burglar was shot multiple times by the homeowner. The attempted burglar was taken to a hospital with what police are calling moderate but non-life-threatening wounds. The identity of that person was not released. If you have any information, call police at 327-7111. And a man is dead after a shooting in East Bakersfield. Police say they got a call around 9:15 Saturday evening for reports of a shooting on Baker Street near Niles Street. Police say they found a man with gunshot wounds in an alley on Niles. He later died. BPD says they do not have a suspect description. If you have any information, you're asked to call police at 327-7111. And a person was injured in a hit-and-run crash on Highway 178. According to CHP, deputies responded to the crash around 2 yesterday afternoon at the mouth of the Kern Canyon. CHP says the suspected driver was driving recklessly prior to the crash. At this time, law enforcement has not provided more details.
Your time now is 5:06. A fire broke out in a building in East Bakersfield. It happened last night just before 8:30 in the 2400 block of Center Street. As you can see, fire crews had responded to a raging fire in a building there. We reached out to the Bakersfield Fire Department for more details, but they haven't gotten back to us yet. And firefighters are investigating a blaze that damaged 2 homes and left a dog dead in South Bakersfield. It happened just before 4:30 yesterday afternoon on Norman Avenue, just behind the Valley Plaza. City fire crews worked quickly to contain the blaze burning between 2 units. The department says they were able to save 1 dog, but another died. Both families had to leave their homes, and the cause of the fire is under investigation.
Today marks International Overdose Awareness Day, organized in hopes of preventing suicides. Today, a local hospital is hosting an event to spread awareness and reduce the stigma surrounding mental health. Bakersfield Behavioral Healthcare Hospital is holding their first Evening of Hope virtual event. It's happening tonight at 7:30, and it's happening on Facebook Live. The digital event is set to feature guest speakers and musical performances. Organizers say the hospital itself will be lit purple to show solidarity with those who struggle with thoughts of suicide. For more information on how you can get involved, you can visit their event page, facebook.com/Bakersfield Behavioral.
Education news this morning. Vaccinations are still required for students this school year, even if they're learning at home. That's why a free immunization clinic is taking place this week. The Panama Buena Vista Union School District, along with Public Health, are offering a free clinic tomorrow and Wednesday for those needing updated shots. Again, schools are still requiring students be up to date on their vaccinations to begin the school year. You're asked to wear a mask and practice social distancing if you come down to the clinic. You can make an appointment ahead of time by calling the number on your screen, but walk-ins are also welcome. The clinic runs from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. both days at Thompson Junior High School Gymnasium, located at 4200 Plains Road. 39 missing children were rescued in a U.S. Marshals operation. Operation Not Forgotten was a 2-week mission during August, targeting both Atlanta and Macon, Georgia. 15 of the children recovered were reportedly trafficked for sex. 9 people were arrested. Officials say they face a variety of charges, including sex trafficking, parental kidnapping, and drug possession. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution says the children ranged in age from 3 years old to 17.
A wildfire assistance center is now open in Northern California to help people with basic needs like food, water, and shelter. Reporter Mike Lurie has more.
Help is finally here today for the families who had to flee their homes in Vacaville from the fast-moving LNU Lightning Complex fire. The evacuees include people like Melissa Dotson, who lost her home on English Hills Road. She's now sleeping on a couch in her daughter's house and grateful for the relief effort at Solano County Community College.
I have done this sort of thing before, and I've never expected to be on the receiving end of it.
It's from us leaving our property.
Also here today, Amy Getz, who recorded this video on her cell phone as she ran for her life from the fire. Her property was unharmed, but she is one of the lucky ones.
We were very fortunate, and we have been absolutely amazed at the service that's been rendered to us by the CHP and the sheriffs, keeping our homes safe.
Now the focus is on helping families return to their properties, even if their homes are not standing. And that's where the Red Cross is providing relief.
We packed these plastic bins full of tarps and safety masks and 5 pairs of gloves and plastic bags and lip balm, and these will be given away to help people, along with shovels and sifters.
And those sifters are designed to help recover valuables underneath the ash. But before you go digging, Solano County is asking residents here to file a plan for environmental cleanup.
Well, what we'd like to do is actually go to your property and have specialists come out and put a flag where there might be hazardous materials, and that way you stay away from that, and only the materials that are authorized for our landfill go into the dumpster.
KGET Business Watch is brought to you by Grapevine MSP Technology Services, the Valley's leading IT service provider.
Welcome back here at 525. In your 17 Business Watch, a Japanese company has successfully tested a manned flying car for the very first time. The company, SkyDrive, held a public demonstration last week. Manned with a pilot, it took off and circled a test field for about 4 minutes before landing. Named SD-03, the car has 8 motors for safety and takes up the space of about 2 parked cars. The company's CEO said in a statement they want flying cars to be a safe, secure, comfortable new way of life in the future. They hope to launch sales in 2023. Wow, mark the calendars. The COVID crisis has put millions of small businesses at risk, and with it, the jobs of millions of Americans. But in a growing number of states, much needed financial help is coming in the form of grants business owners don't have to repay. NBC's Susan McGinnis reports on a nonprofit helping businesses, employees, and their families survive.
Among the most painful impacts of the coronavirus, millions of businesses struggling to stay open or forced to shut down.
I had to lay off most of my staff.
Businesses like Soul Taco in Richmond, Virginia. Owner Trey Owens reached a breaking point.
Without any help, we'll probably have to close in about a month to 2 months.
But Owens got help, a much-needed boost from the Virginia 30-Day Fund. It provides grants of up to $3,000 to businesses with up to 30 employees.
The average small business has only 2 weeks of cash reserve on hand.
Founder Pete Snyder and his wife formed the nonprofit in March.
Our number one mission is to save as many small businesses as we can.
Businesses like Lexington, Virginia's Walkabout Outfitters.
You know, our business was decimated.
For owner Tina Miller, the financial help was just part of it.
Somebody cared about our small business.
These folks are actually eating away at their retirement just to make sure that they're putting food on the table for their employees.
The Snyders pitched in the initial funding, and from there it grew and has now helped more than 600 small businesses.
In contributions as small as $3 or $30, that pool has grown to over $3.1 million.
The thanks keep pouring in from business owners across the state.
It is a ray of sunshine to get one of those grants.
It has been some of the most heartwarming and heartbreaking work that I've ever done in my life.
A helping hand offering hope to those who need it. Susan McGinnis, NBC News, Lorton, Virginia.
17 News is your local election headquarters. After a week of protests and just days after the Republican National Convention, President Trump will visit Kenosha, Wisconsin, where Jacob Blake lies paralyzed after he was shot 7 times by a police officer. That incident set off demonstrations across the country, including a deadly shooting Saturday night in Portland. The mayor there says the president is to blame for the violence. Alice Barr has the details.
President Trump is doubling down on his law and order message as deadly violence once again spins off from the racial justice protests across the country. With tensions boiling over after a weekend of violent protests, both President Trump and Joe Biden are preparing to return to the campaign trail. Biden speaking today in Pittsburgh, while the president takes his law and order message to Kenosha, Wisconsin tomorrow, despite requests from the governor and mayor to stay away.
This community is trying to heal. We're trying to pull together.
The president is not scheduled to meet with the family of Jacob Blake, who is paralyzed after a police officer shot him 7 times in the back. While the circumstances are under investigation, the ensuing unrest marks a new phase in a summer of protests. In Portland, Oregon, Saturday, a man affiliated with a right-wing group was shot and killed. It came as supporters of President Trump and the Black Lives Matter movement clashed in the streets. Portland's mayor accusing the president of ratcheting up tensions.
It's you who have created the hate and the division.
The president's on the side of law enforcement and the rule of law.
In a statement, Biden accused the president of recklessly encouraging violence while condemning the violence unequivocally himself. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
Here at home, police continue to crack down on illegal street racing. Bakersfield police, along with CHP, conducted a street racing enforcement operation on Friday night. Police say they arrested 7 people and cited 80 others and impounded 33 cars over the weekend. BPD says one of the drivers was driving under the influence and arrested. Police say according to the operation, they recovered a stolen vehicle. And just a reminder, police say they will be out in force through Labor Day weekend in an effort to curb drunk driving. BPD says they will have extra officers patrolling the streets now through Labor Day weekend as part of a national enforcement campaign. Drive sober or get pulled over. BPD says even though fewer people are on the roads because of the pandemic, impaired driving continues to be a problem.
5:34 now, your 17 court watch. Closing arguments are expected today in the case of a man accused of killing his girlfriend's 2-year-old son in 2018. Back in April 2018, Caleb Kessinger and his former girlfriend, Ailed Chavez, were arrested and suspected of killing 2-year-old Ramon Angel Reyes Chavez. Police believe the pair dumped Ramon's body in the Kern River Canyon and then returned to bury it sometime later. Chavez took a plea deal in the case after leading police to the spot where her son's body was buried. She has testified against Kessinger in this case. Chavez told police she went out for dinner with a friend and left Ramon in Kessinger's care. And when she came home, she claims Ramon had injuries to his face and head and that the baby died later that night.
A woman is dead after crashing into a light pole in Oildale. According to CHP, the car crashed into the pole in the area of Olive Drive and Roberts Lane around 6:45 Saturday morning. CHP says when they arrived on scene, they found the woman unconscious and pinned inside the car. The woman later died. CHP says they do not know if the woman was driving or if another person was involved in the crash. And at least one person is dead after a pickup truck collided with a semi earlier that morning. CHP says they responded near Herring Road and Old River Road for a crash around 6:10. Deputies say they found the pickup truck on fire and the driver pinned inside. CHP has only released these limited details. Deputies have not said whether anyone else was killed or injured in that crash.
Welcome back. Your time now is 5:48, and making news around the world, a close encounter between Russian fighter jets and a U.S. Air Force bomber. The U.S. military released video of Friday's encounter over the Black Sea. The Department of Defense accused the Russian jets of making an unsafe and unprofessional intercept of a B-52 bomber. The video shows just how close the planes got to each other. According to a statement from the Defense Department, the Russian Su-27 jets got within 100 feet of the B-52 multiple times. The U.S. claims the B-52 was conducting routine operations over international waters when the incident happened. The Black Sea borders Russia, as well as America's NATO allies Turkey, Romania, and Bulgaria.
Crackdowns on protesters and journalists over the weekend in Belarus. Tens of thousands took to the streets for the third consecutive weekend of demonstrations against presidential elections earlier this month. A column of armored military vehicles was seen driving into the center of Minsk, the capital. Widespread protests began after the August 9th presidential election that protesters call a fraud. President Alexander Lukashenko has refused to rerun the election, which both the European Union and the United States have said was not free or fair.
Thousands of protesters rallied in Germany this weekend against the country's coronavirus restrictions. Some displayed signs or symbols supporting the QAnon conspiracy movement. NBC's Matt Bradley reports from Berlin.
Yeah, in many ways, it's a sight we've grown used to in the States at rallies, seeing QAnon flags and posters and evidence of their belief online. But it's a startling sight to see them spreading here into Europe. There were tens of thousands of people gathered here in central Berlin in front of the iconic Brandenburg Tor yesterday. And among them were many adherents to the QAnon conspiracy theory. The vast majority, of course, were protesting against COVID-19 restrictions, the kind of things that would see people locked down. Now, why would a European, why would a non-American, who's not a Democrat, not a Republican, believe in something like QAnon, this wildly fabulous conspiracy theory that is totally baseless? And the reason why we're seeing is that it's spreading on the coattails of skepticism about coronavirus. So those people who think that the coronavirus is man-made or introduced by a global cabal of elites who are trying to use it to profit or to manipulate the public, those people might also be susceptible to the idea that there's a cabal of elites who are trafficking in children around the world and that Donald Trump is some sort of anointed savior who will be freeing the children and arresting those who are guilty. That's the main part of the QAnon conspiracy theory. And again, it's been widely debunked. Whether or not this is actually going to influence politics outside of the United States, that's another question. Matt Bradley, NBC News, Berlin.
Well, still to come, has your perception of time changed in the midst of COVID-related lockdowns? Apparently, you're not alone.
We were just talking about this. How our internal clocks have been affected by virus-related restrictions on our lives. That's still ahead in your Health Watch.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is a production of KGET and Nexstar Media Group. For more on all of the headlines in today's show, head to kget.com.